Welcome to the CoLab podcast series, brought to you by Cresco, a law firm with an exclusive focus on entrepreneurship. In this podcast, we take you behind the scenes with some of today's most driven entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and innovators. We hope these conversations will not only inform but also inspire you on your own journey in business. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hi everyone, welcome to CoLab by Cresco. My name is Glenn West. I'm a partner at Cresco, specialized in assisting entrepreneurs in their entire growth cycle, basically. So assisting them in setting up companies, doing strategic investment rounds by VCs, doing private equity transactions, M&A, and then most of the times also when someone sells his or her company, doing fund formation for the same type of client. Today, I have the honor to welcome Béatrice de Mahieu from BeCode and a lot of other initiatives and companies. So we could probably fill a big part of the podcast by listing your impressive CV as well. But in all these podcasts, we have the habit of posing the initial question, which is, could you please introduce yourself and explain the mission of your company, BeCode?
Yes. So like you said, my name is Béatrice de Mahieu. I didn't create BeCode, but I'm now in my role as CEO of BeCode since 2022, so it's now 2 years ago. During all my career, I was active in innovation and technology, so I worked quite some time at Telenet, at Microsoft, and I became myself entrepreneur. But I really have a deep passion in education. Because for me, it's really like the main luggage that you can give also to youngsters to prepare for their future life. And not only to youngsters, but also to whomever that needs also to evolve in life, to grow. We speak more and more now about the importance of upskilling, of reskilling of people also within companies. And also because I have 3 children, and my youngest daughter, she has a learning disability, quite severe disability. And so I was really also obliged for my private part of life to discover all kinds of education systems to be sure that she could fit in the right format of going to school. And then it's also at that moment that I've noticed that there is quite some misknowledge, and that we often, tend to do the same things that our parents did for us. And then when we have children, we tend to do the same scenario. The things got repeated. There are so much beautiful things that you can discover in the education system, but also a lot of frustrations that is present today into the education system. So I think where BeCode and I fit very well 2 years ago, and where for me it was really like a coup de foudre on BeCode, is that we are really first a partner for companies who wants to recruit but also train differently. So recruit people that are less lucky into that education system or employment system. But secondly, also where companies say, like, we have a certain number of people in our organization that we really need to upskill to be sure that the employability can continue to be assured also for these people. And so we do that by recruiting youngsters or less young people that we train and that we place also in companies. So we only focus on tech trainings. And there's a lot of curriculums that we do, from AI to cybersecurity, etc. And then we make sure that these people that we train, that the part of the inclusion now, and we speak about diversity, but that the inclusion part is really also well accompanied also when people find a job, and how all that gets done also in the company afterwards.
Interesting. And how many students do you have right now, and how many have you already placed in working environments?
Yeah, so we exist now since 2017, and in total we are a bit more than 4,000. So we have, I think it's 4,100 something at date of October 2024. Okay. And we are present in 4 cities. So the biggest campus is in Brussels, and then we have Ghent, Charleroi and Liège. So we really have like training hubs where we have teams that do the recruitment of our students, that do the training. We train in technical skills, but also in soft skills, because we are really convinced that it's not only the knowledge that you will use when you go to work, but also how to be being in a company, communication skills, functional skills, business skills, etc. So we really try to have the most holistic curriculum, even if it's tech focused. And then we have also a team of people that are really more working as account managers with the companies, where we receive then job descriptions, we match it with our candidates, and we kind of work also like a recruitment bureau.
Yeah. Okay. And does it follow the same tendencies? You mentioned you had different buckets like AI and security. Yeah. Does it follow the same tendencies as the market? Is AI very popular right now? Or,
Totally. Yeah, sure. So more, because of course our name is BeCode. Maybe I would love one day to change the name, because it's do we still really need coding? I think we need. But not in the same way. And I think it's important also to see that we learn our students also to use the generative AI tools, for example, because that will be also what they will be using also in the company afterwards. And you can be a civil engineer, informatics, whatever. You can use also these generative tools to document your code, to make things sometimes quicker. And it's like I said, and we said also to our students, you have to see ChatGPT, for example, as a super stupid assistant that is quite very polite. He will never say, no, I don't want to do it. So he will always do it. But you will have to be critical, creative, logic, near to your super assistant, because you will need to tell him what to do. And if you cannot analyze what he will bring out of your requests, then it's a bit of a stupid thing. So we really need to continue also to make them learn coding, but not in the same way like when BeCode started in 2017. So of course, AI is really a very important bucket of the courses that we give. Cybersecurity also, and I think sometimes cybersecurity is a bit, seen as less important for companies, where they said, don't worry, our IT department, they are busy with it. And while we see that a lot of cybersecurity issues are more related to people, just the employees of the company that do something that can be harmful for the company. So that's really, I think, these two trainings that are the most important ones. Yeah.
And actually, at the end of the course, do the students get some kind of certificate, or is it recognized in some way or another, or how does that work?
Yes. So all our trainings are recognized by VDAB for Flanders and Brussels, by Bruxelles Formation and Actiris for Brussels, and by the FOREM for Wallonia. And so there is a mix of, they receive like a BeCode certification. It's like a diploma. Is it worth something? It's more for their personal satisfaction. But we have quite some certifications also that are linked with the technology and the curriculum that they study. So we have series of Microsoft certifications, of Amazon certifications, etc. So this is something that companies also understand as a certificate. They know exactly what level in cybersecurity the student has accomplished and what he is able also to do when he will start to work. I would love also maybe to evolve later in the micro certification, and there are quite some references in very short and small micro certifications that are also in Europe understood and also official. So I think there is quite some things that we could still bring into that diploma, if you can say it like that, the certification. But for companies, you see more and more that companies are not just hiring on diploma, not for tech. I don't speak for a law firm or whatever, but especially in tech, it's really also how the person is, what is the motivation that he can do, what is the autonomy and learning also of a candidate. So it's a lot of things beside of diploma today.
And I would assume that also the market results, the companies, your partners, employing these persons, if they're happy with the results, I guess, that it isn't maybe an official certificate or diploma, but everyone knows that they've studied what they should study and that they know what they should know. So
and our our biggest accomplishment, I think, is, for example, that I can name them with Accenture. Okay. It's now for 5 years they are a partner of BeCode, and they have proposed, I think, 70 internships, from whom I think 40 people have been recruited. Around 40 has been recruited from the interns, which is a tremendous success for me in 5 years to say 40 BeCoders. And then there is a ripple effect, of course, is that the BeCoder becomes then a mentor of a new BeCoder who starts, and then you really have like the whole BeCode community within a company that can really also become the supporter of a new BeCoder that starts.
Yeah. In the intro, you also mentioned that you have interests in education in general and organizing it. You have some personal experience with it in your family life as well. Do you try to incorporate these values, these methods in BeCode in some way or another? And did that also trigger you to become CEO, to take up this role?
Yeah, sure. And I've always been in the tech sector or digital sector, in the for-profit sector. And I worked a lot in innovation, open innovation, collaborative innovation. I was a CEO of CoStation before, and then we sold it to a consultancy company. And I think it's like, do we call it midlife crisis? I don't know, 50 years crisis, where I really wanted to do that switch and to say, okay, how can I now bring my energy and my knowledge more to the service of an NGO? It's BeCode is een VZW. And to see how I can bring knowledge and energy and that kind of business excellence also, where I came from, more than into an impact organization, and to focus on that.
And can you maybe highlight some of the methods or values which you try to include or incorporate in BeCode, which are different than the traditional ones? Or?
Yeah, well, there are values, of course, and then you have methods. I think these things can be seen differently. I think in the values, we really work a lot on values that we adopt internally, so for the employees of BeCode, but also for the students. And it would be weird if we would learn to the students different, or, in our charter for the students at BeCode, that we would have totally different values that we as employees have. So they are quite aligned, like accountability, like support, like between brackets, family. So if someone isn't feeling good, try to support. We are in a group, we are together. Proactivity, respect. So these are really things that for us are important, because we tend also to learn into these soft skills, like I said, all these values that they will have to care and to live also during their 7 months of trainings, and that we really also recommend, of course, to keep afterwards when they go for a job. Or it's really very strongly also you're not alone in this, and to really also focus into the support system that buddies can be in a class. And so we tend also to say is like, we are not a trainer, we are a coach. We are here to help you step by step during these 7 months of training. And you are not just a student, but you can also be the coach of someone, on the right or on the left side from you. I remember when the first year of university, I remember that we were in the auditorium, how do you call it? And that, I don't know what professor was it again, but he said, like, look at your right, look at your left. And there will be one of you, I think every student, there will be one of your three that will stay over at the end of the parcours. Well, that's what we are not saying. For us, it's, you look at your right, at the end of the 7 months, you will still be the three of you, because you will have been supporting one another. And so these are really the values that we bring, of believe in yourself, be there also to help others. And what happened yesterday, you can't change it, but what will happen tomorrow, you have that future in your hands. Yeah.
And next to your role at BeCode, you're also a mentor or a business strategist. How do you balance both roles? How do you combine them?
I think I have quite some passion, quite some energy, and quite some curiosity. There is always a bit of a fil rouge. I think I really do love, we spoke about education, but everything that has to do with change, with innovation, with taking away frustrations or friction, then that can be somewhere finding solutions. I'm not someone who will say like, yes, it doesn't work, so be it. We cannot change something. I think we always can change something or try to change something. And that's also maybe what I use also when I'm mentoring startups or entrepreneurs, or even in programs, for example, like Belgium's 40 under 40 that is running, that are not always entrepreneurs. It's really to thrive, that change is possible and in every sector and in every role. And that if you maybe sound a bit cliche, but if you don't try, you don't know that you will succeed or not. It's just try to do it.
Yeah. No. And you also mentioned that you're mentoring some startups as well. Which factors do you see, or which factors, because many of our listeners will be startup entrepreneurs, which factors do you see which would help them to successfully scale their business from your own expertise as being a mentor to multiple startups?
Yeah. There is one funny thing, because I think, of course, a startup, you always want to grow, but I think it's also important not to immediately put that pressure. Now, investors won't like what I will say, but
but you also have experience as investor, right?
Yeah. But it's not always an obligation, And some startups said, or entrepreneurs said, okay, I'm fine with this size, and I don't want to. And for me, that's also okay. But okay, taking this apart, I think that. One of the most important things that I see sometimes in teams is the lack of trust. And how is it called? The pyramid of Liccioni? It's for me, and even recently also in our own team, at a certain point we were there, wait, do we trust each other? Is there really trust where you can say, on the top of the pyramid, you can maybe sometimes also have a conflict, have a difficult situation, and that you can and that you dare to say so to someone else, I don't feel okay with that, I have a problem with it. And so that trust in teams is for me very important.
Between founders, but also in the role of an investor? Or how would you say?
Of course. Founders or a founder that founds a partner or whatever. So for me, that notion of trust, we tend to forget it. And we always try to see on complementary competences, and of course that's important, but that trust will be so important that for me it's really something that when even myself, sometimes I forget it and I said, oh my God, I don't know how I should tell him that, and then if I doubt on how would I tell something to someone, that's sometime when I have that trigger, like, okay, but is there somewhere a trust issue? Do you have somewhere? And so I really try to really work on that trust. On talent, I think we tend also in teams to be sure that, or to see that how is the talent in a company present? How do we implement also a culture in talent? I tend to believe that culture can evolve with the size of the company, that you have certain culture that can be really, because your company needs that type of culture for the moment, that the culture is not a value, I think. And values should be something that stays, but the culture can be sometimes evolving also with the size of the company, with the phase of the company. And sometimes I think also we tend to forget that and to try to stick to the same culture in whatever phase that we are in a startup. And I'm more tending to say, okay, culture can evolve with what you need at a specific moment in the evolution of your company. And then last but not least, of course, is be open for advice and ask advice. And there is way more people out there that are happy to help. And so if you could give help, then also at another moment is really go outside, ask for help. Say also when things are getting tough or difficult. There are, again, also more people that you think, entrepreneurs, that can have very difficult times also. And by just sharing it, it's also something van je hart weghalen. So that would be like the three things that for me I can really relate to. So it's maybe a bit more into soft skills. I don't know, but it's some fundamentals that I really like also to remind myself also to.
I think the soft skills, yes, but often neglected. I think in growth phases, especially for hyper growth startups. But can you also share some examples of startups you worked for which achieved an significant growth and through innovation with your help or your advice?
But I thought when we prepared the discussion, I think one interesting to mention is Decarbonize. That is, I think it exists now for 2 or 3 years. And that was result of an open innovation ecosystem around mobility that we did at the Co-Station with the help also of Cresco. That's important to mention. And so that was really one of the projects that came out of the ecosystem where we found also a CEO to place on that, and that growth as now a product that is a cockpit to measure and to analyze also your carbon impact. So totally necessary also this time of CSRD. But so I think that's an interesting also example of something that really starts by an innovative initiative, and here then open innovation with multiple parties, and that could do a go-to-market, and that launched, I think they are now 10 or 15 people, so it's, I think, something like that, or just 10. And then the second thing, because we are also speaking about BeCode, it's also there to pivot your system. And I think BeCode started as an NGO and really focusing on we train vulnerable individuals and then we put them into a job. We accompany them in a job in the tech sector. BeCode now, after 6 years, is really also in that pivot moment where we say, okay, we are a training center for vulnerable individuals, but in fact, we are the partner of recruitment for companies. Mm-hmm. And it's really something where you can also prove that you have a sustainable business model, and that it's not because you are an impact organization that, to say it bluntly, you are just living on subsidies and on donations. And that's also something, for me, it was a big eye-opener when I started BeCode, and I discovered the impact entrepreneurship scene, is that we often tend to forget that if you want to have impact, and then, it's like a startup hyperscaling or an impact startup, but you want this hyper impact that you also want to have. You don't have to forget that if you're not sustainable, you will not be able to have the impact that you would love to have. And so, for example, here, BeCode, it's also a good example. How can you, by the necessary focus, business excellence, focus on the right process and on the right value proposition that you are bringing on the market, that you can pivot also from pure impact with, let's say, not so healthy financial situation, that you can really switch also by saying, we do the impact on a sustainable way, and we focus also with a real value proposition that the market needs.
Yeah, no, very, very interesting. Do you actually foresee that all these types of ESG legislation, CSRD, and so on and so forth, do you foresee that this is like a first trigger to initiate those initiatives, and that they will become more economically viable or based on business cases afterwards? Or?
No, I think we will see how it will evolve. So there is a lot of regulation now that is coming up or already there, that companies need also to foresee or to fill in. Mm-hmm. Will there be like a kind of, when was it, the internet bubble in 2000? Or the bubble of 2008 or whatever, will there be now kind of maybe also a bubble of all the different initiatives that are working on sustainability or social impact? Maybe, but I think it's a good thing to be aware of as a startup that is in that impact scene. But as a corporate, when we see now the regulations that need to be respected, I think it's also a good thing to be sure that we are in line in climate issues, but also in human rights, in the social aspect. We cannot say that, what a boring stuff it is. So I think it's an interesting part for both sides. But maybe indeed to be careful that will there be a new bubble maybe of a lot of impact startups that started and a lot of tools to measure, to track data, to to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah. You also briefly mentioned the co-station open innovation as a principle in general. You've experience as a board member advisor in many companies, also bigger corporates. How do you look at the Belgian landscape? Is there an evolution in open innovation? Do you think that the bigger corporates appropriately use these types of mechanisms, or would you have any tips or tricks or advice for them?
It's a funny thing because indeed, co-station started with that. I think it was in 2019. It was just before COVID. And sometimes I tend to think that we were maybe too early on the market. But okay, then you say, okay, we were maybe too early. And then you're a bit proud also by saying, yeah, but we were the first. No. Like everyone is now speaking about ecosystems and open innovation. You were like, yeah, okay, yeah, been there, done that. No. But that being said, I think companies more and more now feel that alone is one thing, together is something that makes you go further. That more and more companies also now see the need or the utility also to work with startups. The startup scene is much way further also than 5 or 10 years ago, where now it's much more normal to say, okay, we innovate through a startup by collaborating with them, by buying them, and you buy and build, and that you. But it's, I think that there is a much more openness to collaborate. I'm also helping as a consultant at Flanders Technology and Innovation now, where I think I really love the approach to say, let's really put data in the center of every wicked societal problem, to really, based on data from different sources, how can we build solutions to have an impact on energy, on learning, on health, and to really go from, or the starting point is really from something very factual, data, and that the human can design scenarios or to see where do we want to go, where do we want to evolve, but based on very tangible things that are data. Because I think we are more and more getting into a data economy. But data, it has been for so many years that all companies have been collecting data without sometimes knowing what should we do with that. And I think it's like now for 2-3 years that we really start to have some data models, and it can be from generative AI to other kind of predictive models, but that data economy is getting more and more settled in the market. But where you can also have then a good balance between, okay, what should the human still do in that, and that it then really feel and see what are the societal problems that our environment or whatever, what are the thematics where you want to work on, and then really use data and the machine to see how you can do that mix of analyze what there is to analyze, and then put models also with a human reflection on that to improve or to find solution collaboratively, then even better.
Yeah. Very, very interesting, and definitely, my personal opinion is also that the open innovation aspect, it will probably only grow. And if you look at other countries where this is much more developed than it probably already is in Belgium, it's probably a tendency we cannot stop here. It will continue to evolve.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. I think everyone has resources. If you mutualize resources more than what you do today, it's a win-win for everyone. But, and then I will quote David Dessers, who always said, you have to have somewhere a clear playbook also on the legal side, because if you do it too binding from the beginning, you will have no innovation. If you have absolutely no rules from the beginning, then you will not have somewhere a trust or an open situation where people share information, data, because if people doesn't share anything, then you cannot build on or innovate on models.
So it's often a step-by-step approach, actually. Yeah. But taking a step back now, are there any lessons you have learned from mentoring startups or being an advisor, a board member in these big, which you can also use in your own work today for BeCode or for any other type of business?
Yeah, one of the first pitfalls that I still always see, and even also at BeCode, and I think it's a human tendency, is to say, I'm sure it's gonna work. I'm sure there is a pain for that. I'm sure there is a need for that solution. and we always fell in love, or you fall in love with your own solution. That's the famous quote.
Well,
like
you have to.
yes, but first you have to fall in love with the problem, and then you fall in love with the solution. And often we immediately jump to the solution, and you haven't really have a very clear and good view of the problem. So first love the problem and then the solution. I think it's
so you
really
mean testing the market and knowing what is really required.
Yes. And don't test the market just on your mother, your brother, your father, because they will say, yes, you are great. And then, so I think indeed it's to continue to really analyze that needs of the user, the citizen, the customer, whatever. The team, we spoke already about the trust. So who is the team? Is there trust? And I think a very complementary team is important, or not complementary. It should be complementary, but I love also to say, like, hire people that are smarter than you. And that's sometimes not so easy for some people, or that you tend to always hire people that are totally the same as you.
Never, no.
And that's always something also that we work on with BeCode is really innovation will also happen when you have diverse teams. And when I speak about diverse, I don't stick to the woman, man, but it's really put people with a master degree, with an engineer, with a bachelor, with a BeCoder, put these different kind of views and perspectives together, and they will have a total different view on the problem, which make it more easy also to innovate, because you will have different perspectives. And so for me, that's also important to be able to build also on the team and on the diverse team. Ask for help. We already spoke about that. So be surrounded with people that can really help you at different phases. And someone who helped you in the beginning will not be someone who helped you maybe at another stage of your company. That was also something that I've noted. Like we spoke about hire smarter. I love that, and I remember that my job when I got a job at Microsoft in 2005. I was in the lifts, in the elevator with my future boss, and she said, "Okay, it's good. You have the job because you're way smarter than me." And I was like, "Oh my god, how can your own boss say that?" So and I always remember Sylvie Herzy saying that to me. So it's a very funny quote, and which I didn't thought I was, but we were complementary. So, yeah. But also at the same time, I heard another entrepreneur who said, "My main lesson is to fire fast," and so. Of course, it can sound cruel if you take it out of context, but be careful also in your company when you have toxic people, when you feel that things are not going right, when you try to analyze the situation, of course, but if you feel and if you know that you should stop the collaboration with the person, be careful not to make the things going too long, because it can be quite toxic for the rest of the organization. Work on your company's culture. We talk about it already. I think culture is important, but make it also evolve. A very young startup will not have the same culture than a scale-up. And then that's also something for entrepreneurs. Business excellence. We tend to see sometimes a difference of entrepreneurs that did a corporate experience before, and then become entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur that just starts and is doing things in the quickest way that he can. I think that the sooner you can have that business excellence or that process excellence without being too heavy, of course, that can help you also when you will grow to have that business excellence that will also be seen into the quality of what you will be doing. So for me, that would be the points that I would like to.
Yeah. Are there in general now any trends in innovation in the market and business strategy that you're most excited about? Is there something to mention, to explain to the audience?
Yeah, I think two things. And one that we talked already about was that data economy. So it's really innovating, not just because we have wild aspirations for a better world, which is, of course, very good, but it's innovation based on tangible data and analytics of data, open data, anonymized data, whatever, that can be shared with consent and of course, in all the rules of it should be. So that's data-centric innovation and that whole data economy. And then I think the second thing also, it's we tend to have where maybe 5 years or more ago, we we mentioned like in one sentence, the people, planet, profit, and it was like blah, blah, blah. And I think that people, planet, profit, that 3P is getting more and more precise now. And I think we know the importance of the planet, we know the importance of the people, and we know also the importance of the profits. And we cannot just say, the profit, and by the way, the people and the planet. We cannot just say the planet and profit, whatever, and at the same time. So I feel that we tend to really now take these 3Ps much more on a serious level, that they can be combined, but that they should be also in a good balance.
Yeah. And do you also foresee your role as a mentor then evolving on more focus on these 3Ps? And how would you see that in practice? For instance, would you have any examples of startups in which?
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit like we said before, it's impact startups that are too focused on the societal or the sustainable impact, or really that CSR and that ESG and what they really wanted to focus on. If it's only on that and not looking on the results that you have bottom line, then the impact will not be able to be done. And I think that's mainly the most important pitfall that I've seen now in the only 2 years, and that are more onto the impact side. Yeah.
And we talked a lot about your passions being education, open innovation, and so on and so forth. But do you have other things which inspire you outside of your work, outside of this context?
Yeah. No, I'm way more introvert than what people say or think. So over the weekend or in my free time, I'm more like nature, walking, sports. So quite some grounding sports, more on the Pilates, on the yoga, on swimming, a lot of swimming and running, but running alone. Don't put me someone who is talking to me the whole run. So
listening podcast.
Yes, listening podcast. So don't talk to me. So my dog, that's okay, because she's not talking. But no, and I really need in my free time to have just ground in, breathe. And nature. And then I also have a big passion on wine. So my husband and I, we launched a wine cellar in Tervuren. So for 4 years now, it's called Chill Living Wines. And so we are focused only on organic and biodynamic wines.
And then
so the clean wine.
Selling the wine in a cafe type of store?
It's a tasting. It's a shop and a tasting cellar. And so we don't have, till now, we don't have a vineyard, but we import and we sell European wines.
Okay, and also you sell also to restaurants and to...
Yes, yeah. So we did for 3 years. We did only the end customer, and then we started also as an importer, or how do you call it? Yeah. And so we also start now with the restaurants. And that's very different than innovation and technology. That's really just a product, it's a product in a bottle. And sometimes you have crisis because they weren't enough bottles during also the start of the war of Russia, because sand was missing to do glass. Well, it's a whole different value chain. But so the fact that you're really selling a product like a bottle,
tangible,
it's very tangible, and then it's a very nice complementary experience with what I do. Yeah,
very nice. And then finally, we at the end of the podcast, we always ask the same question, and it goes like this: at Cresco, we deeply value collaboration, so we love to ask all our podcast guests if you would partner with any company, individual person in the world, who would that be and why?
Yeah. So I saw the question. I was like, okay, what am I gonna? And I was thinking, and then I think my biggest dream is I would love to have a better and a closer collaboration between all the business or professional education and the education. And today, these are 2 verschillende kabinetten, ministers, whatever. So it's so split from, no, this is the business world and this is the education world. And where people say sometimes, no, when you are studying, you are not getting prepared for a job. That's not the role of the studies. And then I have somewhere, come on. Yeah, or when some universities or high schools tell me then, we are preparing a bachelor in cybersecurity and we will be ready and the students will start in, September 2025. So that will do that the first students will graduate in, 2028. Then I'm like, oh my God, for cybersecurity in till 2028, whatever is going to happen. So it's these two worlds for me are so far that if I could indeed have one dream is that we...
But how could you merge them in practice? Difficult one.
I think already with in the politiek, I don't know. It would be maybe more interesting to put that closer together. And I'm not sure there is a willingness to put that closer together. But if companies, if we really want to be a better answer for the company's needs on talent, and whatever talent, but because I'm in the tech sector, but it's for all kinds of talents, the zorgsector, the leerkrachten. Enfin, bon, there is so much talent shortage that you have something. I have really a real question, like what is wrong between the education system and the werkstelling, and the métiers where there is indeed a lack of talent. And I'm not sure that there is enough collaboration between these both to get it filled. Where is the problem?
Because the schools, the educational systems, the institutions, they only notice the consequences like 10 or 20 or much later, even after the students get their diploma. So, well, it's probably necessary to have some kind of market testing as well, with respect to the educational system. And I think you're doing a good job already at BeCode, so that's the first step. So,
thank you.
I would like to thank you for this very interesting conversation, and I hope everyone enjoyed. So, talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.